The Rock and Roll and Coffee Show is brought to you by Writers and Rockers Coffee Company, keeping the music and memories alive with some damn good coffee. Be sure to pick up your Rock and Roll and Coffee Show coffee only at writersandrockerscoffee.com. And also brought to you by Retroactive, located at Broadway at the Beach in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, keeping you retro with everything from 70s, 80s, and 90s. ShopRetroactive.com. Welcome to the Rock and Roll and Coffee Show. I am Joe Sibilia. My next guest is the founder and organizer of the Rockin' Pod Podcast Convention, Chris Czynszak. I'm going to talk to Chris about Rockin' Pod 2023 coming up on March 17th and more next on the Rock and Roll and Coffee Show.
It's the Rock and Roll and Coffee Show. Yeah, with Joe.
All right, Chris, so we've got Rockin' Pod coming up. It's right around the corner, March 17th, right?
Yep, just right around 2 weeks away now.
How you feeling?
Oh, it's the craziest time. I posted on Facebook earlier. If you want to know what 24 hours passing feeling like 5 minutes, just be a convention booker. It's there's never enough time in the day to get done what I need to, but I mean we're pretty well set. It's just a lot of little minute details that you have to work out at this point.
Mm-hmm. So everything's already set up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, everything's pretty well locked in. It's just, printing merchandise, all kinds of, making sure the hotel rooms are right for certain people. Just a million. We had to scramble and find 75 chairs for one of our Sunday events today. We did it, but it's putting out fires and answering questions all day. It's the busiest time, but I have gotten a little better at coping with it. And we also have a ton of great people that are working with me that help me with all this stuff.
How many do you have on your team?
Well, a core team of, probably about 7 to 10. It's a core group of us though, that kind of do a lot of the work. It's me, my wife, Michelle, and then Tracy McAndrew, who's been there since day one. She does all the scheduling for the guests, and scheduling of the interviews for the podcast, and that's a job unto itself.
That's got to be a nightmare.
She booked over 200 interviews last year, and I think we'll probably be between 300 and 400 will be scheduled for this year. And then production manager Andy Connors, who handles all the tech stuff. Way smarter than me when it comes to that stuff, helps me round up gear to use. And then he's been there since year one too. So yeah, we have a pretty core group of people that have been there really since the start of it.
Mm-hmm. How far in advance do you start planning for it?
It varies. I mean, it's typically no less than 9-10 months. This one, I had the luxury of basically taking 2022 off, but most of that year was spent planning this. So you're always doing groundwork almost immediately after I'll take maybe a month at the most off, and then it's back to work on the next one.
Back to get started for the next one.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So for people that aren't aware of what actually Rockin' Pod is, tell me about Rockin' Pod. Like, what is it and why did you start it?
Yeah, so we kind of call it like a kind of fan convention meets trade show. It's a little bit of both things. It's kind of like a real professional conference as far as podcast goes, and then also it's rock stars coming, and so they get to promote on these shows, and then fans get to come in and meet the rock stars. And then my ulterior motive is always to get those people to come in and then turn them on to all these awesome music podcasts that come every year. So I've been a music podcaster since 2011. So this is my 12th year doing it. And we would do, I'd do these at the time Skype calls with all these people from all over the place. And you end up, as you probably know, you end up developing real friendships with a lot of them. And
sure.
But over the years, it was always like, man, it'd be great to go grab a beer with you, but you're 600 miles away. So it wasn't really a thing. And one of my fellow podcasters, Brian Cramp, who's actually now a published author, did a great Cheap Trick book last year. Had the idea was like, we should do some sort of a meetup for the podcast. And he was kind of talking about our core group of friends that do each other's shows. And I was like, okay, well, that's a good idea. Where should we do it? And he's like, well, Nashville's a good music town. And then, so by default, since I'm the one who lives here, I become organizer. But also I'm one of those people where I never do anything half-assed. If I'm interested in something, I try to do it to the hilt, that's what this turned into, because then I've been fortunate to interview a lot of the rock guys that have moved here over the years. So I started calling in favors that first year, going, would you come to this and do some interviews and, meet fans? And I got a lot of yeses and got some vinyl vendors on board. It organically became a convention. So that's kind of the basis for it. And then it's just grown year over year since then.
Right. It's almost like an event now, right? It's like 3
Yeah.
days, and you don't just, it's not just the podcasters getting together in room. It's people come, they meet the rock stars. You have pre-concerts, you have after show parties.
Yeah. And that's just naturally grown over the years. Like the first year was really just, well, we had a pre-party concert every year, but it was just like, well, there's people are in town, we should book some bands. And it's all just been natural how it progressed. But yeah, now it's a thing where the convention's still the highlight for most people. It's especially the podcast, because it's a lot of work gets done, a lot of networking happens, and a lot they get to hang out with each other, but also everyone loves to hang, right? So it's like, let's book events around it. And I wanted to expand it to a full weekend, because I hear a lot of times like, well, Saturday was great, but now it's over. So I'm like, so over the last couple of years, we've started booking Sunday events, and this is definitely the strongest Sunday we've ever had for Rockin' Pod weekend.
You've got I saw Eric Martin's going to be doing some comedy.
Yeah, Eric Martin's going to be part of all 3 days. So he'll be doing the pre-party concert. He's going to do a couple of Mr. Big tunes, and the expo, there'll be a live on stage interview with him. He's going to do a bunch of interviews with podcasts. And then Sunday, it's a show called Punchlines and Backlines. And it's Courtney Cronin-Dold, Craig Gass, and Don Jameson, all comedians. And the concept of the show is they do their sets, but then also they get a rock star to get up and do a comedy set. And it's just kind of a fish out of water thing, and it's interesting to see how it comes about. And they've done several of these, and Eric was kind of on the fence about doing it, and but some of the comedians were down at Rock Island in Florida, and Don Jameson saw Eric there, and he was like, we heard you got approached to do our show. And Eric's like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to do it. And then Don was like, well, we did it on Monsters of Rock Cruise, and Kip Winger went through with it. He's like, okay, if Kip Winger does it, then I'll do it. So
yeah.
it's like a competition now for those two.
That's funny. Now, I mean, comedy, I said this on the show a couple of times when I've spoke to people about comedy, but that's got to be the hardest thing I could imagine. I've never done it, but I couldn't imagine.
I'd be terrified. Yeah. You're basically up there naked with a microphone, and it's
trying to be funny.
Yeah. And then if you don't get a laugh, that's got to be like the saddest thing in the world to feel that, it sounds terrifying to me.
Well, good for Eric. That's good. That's great. That sounds like a good time. So your pre-party is Rare Hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tyson Leslie?
Yeah, Tyson's been booking these for a few years here around town, and I brought him in last year to do it, and we did it at a place called Mercy Lounge, which sadly is no longer there. That's just the way Nashville is. The venues change all the time.
Come and go.
But well, the developers buy them all up. But we did it that last time. We packed the place, and we had like Billy Sheehan and Greg Bissonette get up and do some David Lee Roth stuff, and Carmine Appice and Vinny Appice got up and played, and it was just a blast. So we had to do it again this time, and got a strong core house band. It's a house band that includes the bassist for Accept and one of the guitarists for Ace Frehley's band. So that's quite a house band. And Ted Nugent's drummer is going to be the drummer. So and they'll be kind of handling the hard part, and then each guest will get up and play. And Eric's going to do it. Stevie Rochelle from Tufts going to get up there, and my brain's going blank. Jason McMaster from Dangerous Toys, and several others that'll be at the expo. They'll be at the pre-party.
That's a blast. Yeah, Jason's a friend of the show. He's a great guy.
Super nice guy. And funny thing about him is, he's a podcaster now too, and does a great show. And when I was telling him, I was like, well, I'll put you in the guest area with, Eric Martin and the other guys. And he's like, oh, no, I'm coming with my co-host, and we're a podcast. Put us in the podcaster area. So he's going to be right in the middle of all the podcasts.
Yeah, that's great. I just had him on the show a few episodes back again, and we were talking podcasting, and he loves it. That's so great.
Yeah, and he's perfect for it because he can tell
Yeah.
stories all day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then you having a movie too, right? Kiss
Yeah.
Exposed.
Yeah, we did the last time we did Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park with the comedians doing commentary, and everyone loved it. And I decided like we have to do it again, but I didn't want to do Phantom over again. And you put Kiss in a movie theater, you're guaranteed to draw people. So I was like, let's do Exposed because there's so much unintentional comedy in that they'll have
Yeah.
a field day, commenting on it.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Now you're a huge Kiss fan. Is that why it's these Kiss movies?
Yeah, and I mean, I take the Kiss ethos with Rockin' Pod. Is like they say they wanted to create the band they never saw on stage. I try to create the event that I would want to attend.
Yeah. Have you ever had a Kiss guy? Any of them there?
I mean, we've had people that are fringe related to Kiss, like Gary Corbett, who was their keyboardist for several years, and
Hmm.
people that are kind of on the outside. We did have Vinnie Vincent booked, and that's a whole saga unto itself to tell that story.
Oh
But
no, it didn't
yeah,
happen.
no, because he kind of lived up to his reputation when I got into business with him, and
Oh
numbers changed and demands started coming in, and I
no.
was like, I know enough about you to know that this is where our paths will end together. So,
Yeah, well, let's stop talking now.
yeah, my show did several specials on him. There's a whole saga that it would take me 3 hours at least to explain my
That's
whole
for another episode.
yeah, my background with Vinnie Vincent. Well,
Oh man, has that happened before? Have you had guests that you started booking them and then you're like, no, I'm not doing this.
he's the only one I've had to do that treatment to. Obviously we've had people that get gigs that, suddenly they can't come. But that's normal for any convention, with TV actors and stuff. They get jobs. But that's no big deal. That's part and parcel of it. I mean, we've had some troubled kids a few times, but I can count on one hand for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the vast
Yeah.
majority of our guests are great to work with.
That's great. Yeah. So as a podcaster, if I go there, well, as a listener, let me ask you this: as a listener, if I just show up, what can I expect?
So yeah, so you'll when you walk in, especially if you're into podcasting, or even if you just want to start a podcast, we have an education track, which will be the first thing you see when you walk in the door, and it's gonna be panel discussions on building a show, the best practices you can use, gear tips, monetizing your show. That's going to be an all day thing, and there'll be panels there, but also over 40 different podcasters are going to be set up in the building from all over the globe. We even have a show from England this time.
Rob,
The
right?
show's
Straight to video.
yeah, straight to video. Yeah,
Love Rob. He's a great guy.
great guy. I'm excited to meet him. And then but like the shows will be recording on site. Sometimes some shows don't have guests and they'll just record amongst themselves, and that's fine. And then but also the celebrity artists that come in, a lot of them will have their own booth, but also they'll get scheduled with the podcasters, and it's like Radio Row at Super Bowl where they'll go from podcast to podcast to podcast. But if you're a fan and you come in and you can kind of see it happen, and the podcasters, if you are a listener and you're meeting them, that makes a podcaster's day. If somebody that actually recognizes them for what they do. Also, a lot of the artists will be selling, merch, autographs, photos. There'll be a main stage with panel discussions all day. We're going to do a women in rock panel. We did that last time. We're doing it again. Announcing that soon. The Decline 2 movie turns 35 this year. And we've got several of the people that were in the movie, Stevie Rochelle and Rick Fox, and Mark Andrews from Seduce lives here. So he's coming out. And we're going to do a panel on that movie, which should be really interesting.
That'll be fun. Yeah. Seduce.
Yeah.
Who were the other bands in that movie? It was Seduce, Odin,
Odin,
and, London.
London. Yeah. I interviewed Nader when he was in Nashville, like the first year I was podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason it never came out. I still have the audio somewhere, but interesting guy to talk to.
Yeah, he's been on this show. Yeah, I've had him on this show.
Yeah.
You should put that out.
I should. Yeah. I've got a few interviews, and I was trying to put a podcast episode about Decline 2 together years ago. And I just kept collecting quotes and stuff. And then it just sort of sat there on the shelf. So I have to revisit that. But yeah, that'll be the panel discussions, live podcast interviews. We're one-on-ones are happening. I know McMaster and his co-host are going to interview Eddie Ojeda from Twisted Sister on stage, so that'll be cool. And tons of merch vendors, vinyl vendors, toys, comics, horror, everything you could imagine. Tons of vendors of all kinds are going to be there. So there's stuff scheduled all day long, and you can spend all day there and not get bored for sure.
Do you get to enjoy it, or are you busy? Are you still working during this?
A little more each year. Our team getting bigger. God, it's been a long day. Sorry.
Yeah, no
Our team
worries.
getting
No worries.
with our team getting bigger. And I've tried to learn how to delegate a little bit more each time. So I've gotten better at that. So last time I got to experience a good chunk of it. So I'm really expecting to be able to actually hang out a good bit for this one.
Mm-hmm. This is the biggest one yet?
Oh yeah. Yeah, by a long shot. It's
Mm.
the room we're going into is huge. And like we did the biggest room we've ever done was 2019, and that was 8,000 square feet for the grand ballroom in a hotel. And this building we're at is 35,000 square feet.
Oh, geez.
It's
That's
so
huge.
much bigger. Yeah. And we're pretty much out of room with the layout we have. It's crazy.
Wow. Now, can the podcasters, can they sell merch?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to do that type of thing. If you can make some bucks while you're there, go for it. I don't get into this to like take a piece of what everybody does. I just like come in, make your money. I tell that to the guest. I'm not
Yeah.
taking a percentage or anything.
Yeah. Kind of like podcasting, right? Not really making anything. Just
Not
for,
really.
for the love of it.
Yeah. And I got into this for the love of podcasting and rock and roll. So it's like I'm not doing it to get rich. I still have a day job, and I probably always will. But
Yeah.
unless it blows up like Comic-Con, but I don't know.
Hey, if you keep going, why not, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the
Unless
big
you're
if.
over it.
Right now, if you ask me that, I'd say, yeah, I'm done. But
You know
I
what
say
you
that
do?
every year.
Yeah, you know what you do? You get somebody else to start taking your place.
Well, that has been a thought, and I have explored that, where I would still be a part of the creative side of things,
Yes.
but the business burden of it is the hard part.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell
Because
me about,
you really put your neck on the line every year when you do this thing.
I'm sure you got to
Yeah.
be a nervous wreck until it's over.
Meditation has helped. I've gotten into meditation, so that's kind of kept me
Yeah.
calm through this year. In the past, I'd freak out the whole way, but I'm doing better this time.
Yeah. Hats to you, man. Props. That's crazy. I did one benefit show one time that I put together, and but it was only 3 bands, so nothing like what you got going on. But I had to get giveaways from Guitar Center and all this stuff, and it was a
Yeah.
lot of work. So I could imagine what you got going on.
Yeah,
Incredible.
if I didn't have a great team and a wife that is a saint, I wouldn't be able to pull it off.
Oh yeah, so she's supportive.
Very, yeah. She's heavily involved with the planning this time, and yeah, I'd be in the nut house without her for sure.
Yeah. Tell me about scheduling the guests. I mean, because that seems like a big task to take on. I mean, how
Yeah,
does that work? Is it like every 15 minutes they move on, or I mean,
yeah.
what are you doing there?
That's pretty much it. They're like it's 15-minute interview time with 5-minute break in between, and Tracy, who does that, she's got it down to like a science. It's like it's where people are sitting, where they're placed. And it's all done through the traffic flow, where the guest sits, where the podcast sits, and it's all designed to be perfectly efficient, where they're not bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
It takes any guesswork out of it. It takes her forever to put it together because it's so detailed. But that's one of our biggest compliments every year, especially from the guests, is everything was planned out and organized so well that it made it easy for me. And that's what we always shoot for.
Mm-hmm. Now you have a hotel as well is in on this
Mhm.
for you, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we got a small block of rooms at the Holiday Inn over by Vanderbilt, and I've done it in hotels in the past, and that was a much harder contract because it's like sell X hundred amount of hotel rooms, and then you get your vendor space. Well, after the pandemic, those types of deals aren't around anymore. It's sell X number of rooms and thousands of dollars down, and it's like, well, we're not doing a hotel again. And the fairgrounds is much more cost effective and have been way easier to work with. But I got a block of rooms for like our guests and staff, and then another block for people that just want to pick up a room. I think those are sold out now though.
Okay. Okay. Tell me about booking the guests. Now, how do you choose who you're going to have at the show? is there any thought into that, or he's just like, oh, this guy would be fun to have? Or
It's a combination of things. Well, the first year it was me begging people that I interviewed, going,
right,
please, will you come to this?
right.
Obviously, I always look at the local artists that are here first, because that saves you a lot on flights and stuff like that. But you look for your headliners, you swing for the fences. I always try to get the huge names, of course, but we're very DIY. We're not corporately backed, so
Sure.
it's you got to work within the budget you have. So obviously, we're not booking an Ozzy or somebody on that level. There's just no way. But you always look for local. There's sometimes some legends live here locally, and you try for that too. But it's a combination of that and going through my Rolodex, or guests that I had in the past will say, hey, so I'm friends with so and so, you should invite them. And then you weigh up how interesting would this guest be, would they be good on a bunch of podcasts, because some people aren't wired to come to a convention and do a
Sure.
bunch of interviews. So I have to look, I do look at their personality. I'm like, would they enjoy this event? But yeah, there's a few different factors in it, but it's a combination of different things.
Hmm. Okay. Now there's also, did I see this right? There's a virtual Rock and Pod thing going on, or pay-per-view?
Yeah, sort of. It's a company called Meat Hook came to me, and they were like, we'd like to be a part of this, and we do live streaming and we also do pay-per-view. And with live streaming, and they agreed with me, I was just like, it's just too much of a gamble for the signal to be bad, or there to be glitches and stuff. But they said we could do a pay-per-view thing where we record all day on Saturday at the event, and the main stage panels will be included too, and then some man on the street stuff walking around the room. And they can edit it up overnight, and then it's basically available like 24 hours later, and then it's available from then for like a month, I think. And it just was an extra thing. They kind of came in last minute, and I'm like, I've always wanted to have something like that, so we signed up with them. And then there's a lot of people that just can't make it that would love to, so it gives them an option to basically get a good view of the event that they missed.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Have you ever filmed it? You ever put out DVD or anything?
No,
No.
we've had some people that come and film little things from it, but we've had some YouTube channels that have come out and done things on it, but nothing on our end where we've done it in house. And but yeah, this thing with Meat Hook sounds really cool, and I was like, that's good for promotion down the road. You can, if you have that video footage that's done professionally. So
Yeah.
it should be. I'm interested to see how it turns out. I haven't worked with them, but I've seen some of their other stuff, and it's great.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's
Yeah.
exciting. Now, you said you've been podcasting for what, 12 years now? 2011?
Well, 12 years in April.
What sparked your interest in podcasting?
So I did I wrote about music on the web for a while, and I used to be more of a writer. But I got sick of doing transcription and stuff, and I was doing a local rock website, and I got the idea. I'm like, well, if national bands are coming in, I should interview them. I'll get more hits. So interviewed people like Corey Glover from Living Color and Michael Wilton from Queensryche. But this was all back in like 2004 or 5. And some of them I would recorded audio. Well, anyway, it's going back to Vinnie Vincent. I had actually started writing a book on Vinnie Vincent. It was when he was kind of in hiding still. And I had some good sources that were sending me a lot of stuff no one knew. And I got like 100 pages in on it, and my computer died on me or crashed on me, and I lost most of the work. But around that time, I was getting I got a day job, and I got my first iPod, and that's when I figured out what a podcast was. And I'm listening to these comedy podcasts, and then it hit me. I'm like, well, I had these interviews I'd recorded for the Vinnie Vincent book on it was an Olympus digital recorder that you plugged into your landline. That's how far back we're going. And I still had the interviews, and I'm like, well, I could just turn these into a podcast, and I don't have to transcribe anything. So that was how I got the idea, and started in April of 2011.
Okay. Okay. And now you have Decibel Geek, right?
Yep.
That's your current podcast. Is that the only one
That's
you have going on right now?
the only one I've ever done.
Oh, that's been it since the whole time.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a
I
long
did it.
time.
I did it solo for a few months, and then learned quickly I needed somebody else because doing it yourself is very difficult. And that's when Aaron came on board. Yeah.
when you were doing it yourself, did you have guests on, or was it just
Yeah.
your old? Okay, you did.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was pretty much just an interview show. It wasn't just me filling up time, but
Yeah.
yeah, even just doing the 5 minute like intro was hell for me because I hated doing it by myself. I'm
Yeah.
an introvert by nature. It's so weird that I do a podcast and then I book a convention where I have to deal with hundreds of people. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm an introvert, but I must be a masochist of some sort. I don't know. It's really strange.
So on Decibel Geek, what do you guys do on that show?
So it's it varies. I mean, we the thing that makes it fun for us still is we don't stick to a particular topic. I mean, it's all music and rock and roll related, but you know, if I want to talk about Bullet Boys one week, we'll do that. If he wants to talk about AC/DC one week, we'll do that. Or you do a year in review show, or you go through what music was released in a year. I mean, it's top fives, best and worst. And we do a thing called Geek Wire too. That's like the every other week, and that's current rock news, which we didn't want to do for the longest time because I was always the thing with podcasting in the early days was produce evergreen content, stuff that 5 years from now is going to be interesting. And I was always like, well, if we talk current rock news in a year, no one's going to give a damn. So, but the longer it's gone on, it's kind of like, I want to talk about these things. So we started doing that, but it changes week by week.
Mm-hmm. Now I notice a lot of the focus is on, I guess you'd call them classic bands now, right? The the hair band genre, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that's because that's what you know most, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's the easiest to talk about. But I mean, we'll do episodes where we highlight music and we'll play stuff that's not like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever focus on trying to get any of the newer acts that are out now to the Rockin' Pod?
Yeah, and actually we have 12 bands from the region that are going to have table space
Oh
at
yeah.
the convention. Yeah, and they'll have like little listening areas for people to come by and check out their stuff, and they'll be doing some scheduled interviews with some of the podcasts too.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been rolling out those announcements this past week, and yeah, always try to find, because people are going to retire eventually, so
Yeah.
it's you got to look to the future.
Yeah. You have any favorite bands, new bands?
Oh, a lot. Well, the album of the year I had was a newer band called The New Roses. Have you heard of them?
I haven't. Mm-mm.
It's pretty good. I mean, a throwback sound, but they're a newer band. There's a band out of Nashville called Stolen Prayer that's coming, and they've been kind of making some big waves. There's another local band called Lost Circus that I've really been into, and they're kind of more like a Judas Priest type metal band, but newer. Yeah, those are kind of the ones that pop up right immediately.
Okay. I'll have to check them out.
Mm-hmm.
But so if someone wants to come to Rockin' Pod, they can go to rockinpod.com, is it?
Yeah, just go to rockinpod.com. It's got, all the information, all the ticket links for each separate event. And yeah, it's got you covered for everything.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you joining me.
Oh, it was fun, man. Good to meet you finally.
Yeah, right. It's that's one of the things with podcasting too. Everyone's so cool in the business, and then I talk to people a lot back and forth, but then when you get to finally meet them, it's like that's great.
Yeah, no, it's and thanks to Dave Tedder for setting me up on all these interviews. I've been clued on to so many shows I didn't know about, and they didn't know about, or they wouldn't know about Decibel Geek,
Right?
And and a lot of them, it's like it's good promotion also for next year because a lot of them are like, I didn't even know about this, but now I want to go. So I was like, well, that works out good,
Yeah. So there is going to be a next year.
Yes, I don't know what my role will be, but I'm sure there will be one next year.
Well, I'm going to try and make it out there next year. As you know, I was trying to come this year, but I can't do it. So I would definitely be out there next year, man.
Yeah, we'd love to see you. Where are you based out of?
I'm in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Oh, I'm jealous. I love that place.
Do you come here often?
I haven't been there in years, but I had a great vacation there years ago.
Awesome. Well, if you ever come back, hit me up.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have the Kiss Coffee House anymore, though.
No, it's gone. Did you go?
No, I didn't. It was before their time. That time, even. Yeah, it was when I was
okay.
like a teen. But yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. All right, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.